Hello, fabulous friends and fans. Welcome to Synchronicity University. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah, and this is your moment of synchronicity. So for this video, we are looking at the moon in the sign of Cancer or in the first house. Now, just because you have the moon in a sign doesn't necessarily make it equal to a particular house, but there is a natural correspondence between signs and houses. In this case, there is a natural correspondence between Cancer as the fourth sign and the fourth house in an astrology chart. If you have your moon in the sign of Cancer, but in a different house, you might relate to some of the themes that I bring up related to having moon in the fourth house, but you will want to watch the video that has to do with the particular house your moon is in, and vice versa as well, if you have your moon in the fourth house, but not necessarily in the sign of Cancer. There are going to be some things you relate to. However, you'll get a much more complete picture if you primarily focus in on the part that has to do with your particular placement in this video and access the other video that speaks to your particular placement as well. So moon in Cancer, moon is at home in this sign. Moon is at home in the sign of Cancer, giving it sort of an automatic position of greater importance, okay? Now again, all else being equal, this is how we sort of learn astrology. We take each piece by piece. Now some people call this cookbook astrology, very necessary part of learning astrology, especially in the beginning and especially in the first years. And a lot of books are sort of based on this principle as well. They're based on this principle that what particular sign the moon is in, you got to understand the moon sign, and then slowly as you deepen your practice, you're able to synthesize that much more. You're able to look at aspects being made to that moon. You're able to look at the degree that that moon is in and the degree of the other aspects that are taking place. And then of course, if you're looking at prediction, you want to look at transits and what that says, how that's going to help that moon evolve. The moon has to do with care. It has to do with emotional nourishment. Moon and Cancer types need a fortress of solitude, first and foremost. To me, I think that Superman, in all honesty, Superman is such a strong archetype for me of moon in Cancer. That is sort of like the strongest archetype we can get for the energy of Cancer, but particular moon and Cancer types. And that's because with the moon in Cancer, there does tend to be particularly interesting relationships, interesting bonds with, in particular, I do think the mom. In some systems of astrology, they associate the sign of Cancer more with the dad. And so you are going to want to experiment a little bit with this. But moon and Cancer types have a particularly strong, are more strongly influenced by one parent than the other, and tend to have a somewhat of a complicated karma with one of those people. They have a very strong influence, strong morality based on the teachings of one particular parent in particular, and a strong sense of right and wrong, morality, immorality, ethical, not ethical. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it is, right? Whatever it is that you consider ethical may not necessarily be true for somebody else. However, there is sort of a strong influence that at least one parent plays in regards to their very strong sort of inner moral compass that these people hold. As I said, need a fortress of solitude. They need that. They need a place that they can get away with, that they can close the door, a place that's all their own. Now, if they live among a lot of people, because family is going to be important to these people as well, if they live in a big family or they live among a lot of people, what I found is that they find corners, okay? So they find their little corner within their living space that they can call their own. And if there ever was a sign that needed a room of its own, it would be moon and Cancer types. However, as I said, if they live amongst a lot of people and they have a family, and particularly a large family, family is of importance to these people. And so they're going to welcome that. They're going to have particularly strong, they're going to prioritize family and have particularly strong connections with family. Again, all else being equal, right? if they have hard aspects happening with Uranus, with Saturn, that's going to say something about how they feel about those connections that they have with family. But regardless, it is going to be important. It's like they have to find a way to, it's not just about get along with family, but it does end up being family where they find a sense of emotional connection. Now, how that moon is placed in the chart will tell you how they actually go about doing that. So for people, for example, if they've got the moon in Cancer, but it's in the 9th house, and these are people who are going to find family in a foreign land, or may actually go to a foreign land because of family. So these are ways, again, this is getting to synthesis, right? And that's why I say you want to watch the video for the other element playing out in your chart with your moon. So not just the moon sign, but the moon house as well. Now, moon in Cancer, as I said, you got to have that little space that's all your own, that allows you to sort out some really strong feelings that are going to come up from time to time. You know, I think about how some signs, you know, when you meet them, you're getting to know them. Now, it's one thing if you just get to meet somebody and you're having that reaction, a chemical reaction to another person. That's Mars, okay? And to a certain extent, Venus as well, right? Like how you're attracting this person, that has to do with Venus. How people first meet you, interpret, you know, who you are, that has to do with the ascendant. But once people get a little comfortable, it becomes about the moon. And if they're comfortable with you, they tend to start interacting with you, not so much a place from their ascending sign, but much more a place of their moon sign as well, especially if they feel at home with you. Now, here's the thing with moon in Cancer, and it's particularly in relationships, I have found that these are people who are much more likely to, you know, be very like all or nothing, right? Have buttons pushed that much more. And these can be people who, you know, if you first meet them and you're just getting to know them and they're just coming at you from their moon, from their Mars sign and their Mars placement, that's one thing, right? That's more detached space. But once you move over that, you know, once you've crossed that bridge and you start touching on the place of the moon, these can be people, like a lot of the water signs, but particularly they feel emotions very strongly, can have really strong reactions to things, have buttons pushed, find themselves, you know, very much wanting to be with you, when you might think, oh, whoa, we're not even close to the moon yet. We're still in Mars. You might think you're still in Mars. But to these people, once you've crossed that and you're touching on the moon, they can become very different. Really want a sense of emotional equilibrium, a sense of emotional security. And that is a huge part of the life journey for people with moon in Cancer, because it is so sensitive and because it is so fluctuating. The emotional reality, especially before they have a Saturn return, so basically before they turn 30, can be very fluctuating. It can be a really busy space inside. However, a big part of the journey is a few key lessons that show up for these people. One has to do with approving of yourself so much that the opinions of others matter less and less. So self-approval, number one. Self-approval so that you can relax and just be comfortable with you, to be comfortable in your own skin. That really comes by keeping the focus on you. Understanding sensitivity as a gift. Because sometimes I think moon and Cancer types can curse their sensitivity. You've got to understand that your sensitivity is a gift, and you can use this to your advantage. You can use this to create power so that you can direct your life in any direction you choose. However, it does take focus on self, focus less on what you think other people might be perceiving or the opinions of others as well. And also to learn through your own feelings. Sometimes your feelings are intuition, sometimes they're fear. Separating fear from genuine intuitive knowledge is a big part of the journey, and sometimes that understanding doesn't really start to take root until they enter their 30s, they enter another phase of life. Then they're able to say, okay, wow, I was really motivated by fear and I didn't realize it. I thought I was being so intuitive. Again, all else being equal, but this tends to be a realization that moon in Cancer types have, and then that's where the journey really begins. That's when the power really can be had. Moon in the fourth house. And so this idea of a fortress of solitude becomes that much more important if you have moon in the fourth house. You are going to want to create a foundation, a home space that truly feels comfortable, feels right, feels safe. That's a big, big theme for people with moon in the fourth house. A sense of safety, a sense of security, whether that safety is within your own skin, feeling comfortable within yourself, or in the environment in which you live. Now, wherever the moon is tends to be an area of life that's always changing. So these are people who may move at several points in life. Where they live, where they identify as home is also going to go through changes as well. Now, I found this is especially true with people with moon in Sag in the fourth house. I keep bringing it back to Sag, ninth house connections. Moon and Sag in the fourth house is, I see this again and again with people who find home in a foreign land. So if you've got the moon and Sag in the fourth, or the moon in Cancer in the ninth, these are people who find home in a foreign land, in a foreign language, foreign culture. But really, that moon in the fourth house has to do with creating a sense of safety and creating a sense of comfort where you are as well. They're going to create a home space that has a lot of creature comforts and a lot of familiarities to them as well, that have lots of little possessions with strong sentimental value as well, strong sentimental feelings. And they'll be able to tell you, like as you move through their house, they'll be able to say, I got that in this space. I got that when I went there. My aunt gave this to me, my grandmother gave this to me on my 11th birthday. Like, these are the types of stories they can tell you with the possessions that they have. Now, what I have also found, interestingly, okay, I have actually found this, moon in the fourth house types can, as I said, the home environment tends to go through changes. So whether they're moving a lot or they're redecorating a lot, but I actually have found that kitsch tends to be, like kitsch is something, moon in the fourth house, I found this with, moon in Aquarius, I found this with as well. Kitsch tends to be something that appeals to them very strongly. So they'll have lots of little items that you would call, kitsch art, like they'll go to the, they'll buy those pictures that are, like $5 for $10 that you can get everywhere. They'll have like tons of Mona Lisas around. This type of stuff that will really appeal to them as part of creating a home that in one way is uniquely their own, but also has elements of the familiar. They'll incorporate elements of the familiar, if not overdone, within the culture as well, and bring that into the home space. Now, again, exactly the nature of what the home is going to be like and the nature of that kitsch depends on the sign, yes, but they do find a way to create these renovations in the home space, and yet renovations that in some way speak to the wider culture at different points in life as well. Now, these are also, because the fourth house is related to parents, these are people whose relationship with their parents goes through phases, goes through changes as well. Maybe at times they're closer to their primary caregivers than others. At times they may end up actually having to be primary caregivers, and particularly to their parents at some point as well. All of these tend to be stronger themes for people with moon in the fourth house, but ultimately it comes down to foundations and where they feel most at home and where they feel most comfortable. And that really is on home turf. Well, thank you so much for watching. Please keep your interactions coming. Facebook, Twitter, Google+, my website, nadiyashah.com, and YouTube comments as well. Truly so grateful for it. So grateful for your trust. Until we connect again, take care. Thank you for watching this lesson as part of Synchronicity University. You can go online at synchronicityuniversity.com or click on your screen if you're on YouTube right now to access even more video lessons, to access horoscopes, interviews with some of the most amazing astrologers in the world, and so much more.